Question 5. Circle the correct answer for each of the following questions. Part A. The fraction 105 over 315 is the same as. So that means we're talking about equivalent. Fractions. So equivalent fractions means they are exactly the same. So that means that 105 over 315 is going to be the same as one of these fractions here. So we're going to say, how did we get from this 105? What do we times this 105 by to get to the 315? Well, you should be able to see a bit of a pattern between the numbers. Well, 1 times what is 3? 1 times 3 is 3. And then we've got 5 and 15 here. So 5 times 3 would be 15. So if I times 105 by 3, that should give me 315. You can double check that. 105, 105, 105. That gives me 5, 10, 15. Carry the 1. And 1, 2, 3. It does give me 315. So I've times 105 by 3 to get me to 315, sorry. So that means for these to be equivalent, I've got to do exactly the same in the correct equivalent fraction for it to be equivalent. So I'm going to go through each one of these fractions now, and if the top number times by 3 equals the bottom number, then that means the fraction is equivalent. So 500 times 3 is 500, 1000, 1500. That's not equivalent, because that would be 500 over 1500, and that's not what it says. 1 times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. That is equivalent. So 105 over 315 is the same as, or is equivalent to 1 over 3. So it's only asking for one fraction, so that there would have given you 1 mark. So I'm just going to practice on the last couple, just to give you some more examples. So 1, it has to be times by 3 to make it equivalent. 1 times 3 is not 2, so that wouldn't be equivalent. 40 times 3 would be 40, 80, 120. That says 122, so that's not equivalent. 48 times 3, well, 14 is much less than 48, so that's definitely not equivalent. So the only correct option here is 1 over 3. Part B. When A equals 3 and B equals 2, then 5A minus B is equal to what? This is substitution now. I can work out an answer to this expression because it's told me what A is and what B is. So this is actually saying 5 times A. Because when they're right next to each other, when they're touching with no sign in between them, that means they're multiplying. So 5 times A, we know that A is 3. So that's actually saying 5 times 3. And that's 15. And then we know that B is 2. So 15, take away 2, and that would give us an answer of 13. And that is actually right next to it. So 13 for 1 mark. Half of 7.5. So half of 7 is 3.5. So then I've got a half here. Well, that gets a little bit tricky if you're a bit not confident with fractions. So if we put this to 7.5, because a half is the same as 0.5, so that is saying 7.5, just like this is. So now I've got a half of 0.50. That's like saying, well, what's half of 50? What's half of 50? 25. Don't forget your 0 point. So now I've halved both of those. I have to add them together. So 3.5 add 0.25 will give me 3.75. So 3.75 is not actually one of my options, but 3.75 is the same as saying 3 3/4. So that would be your final answer for 1 mark. You need to make sure you know your fractions, decimal and percentage conversions. So 0.25 is the same as 25%, which is the same as 1/4. 0.5 or 0.50 is the same as 50%, which is the same as 1/2. 0.75 is the same as 75%, which is the same as 3/4.